Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Steve Kiyama, and I'm the franchise owner for Action Coach in Fairfax, Virginia. And I'm your host today for the Business Spotlight podcast. And today I have the pleasure to introduce Christina Monfalcone, the president of Monfalcone and Garris PC, as my guest. And today we're going to talk about Christina's business, her journey into business ownership, challenges, best practices, share a peek into what it's really like to build and operate a business. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when a show like this one drops. So Christina, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here today. And if you would, please give us a little bit of background about who you are and tell us a little bit about your business too.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit of a loaded question because it's a lot of weird backstory. I was one of those people that didn't plan to be here, just ended up here. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, they just
Yeah,
somehow ended up where they are. There was
yeah,
no plan. Started out like thought I was going to be a chemical engineer. That did not was not end up where I needed to go because accounting seemed more fun at the time. So ended up working for a small firm for a long time. End up that I was kind of the product of even less planning than I've planned. Is that they had no backup plan, no sale situation when they got sick. So there it was a guy that had been in practice for a long, long time, ended up being terminally ill, and ended up with a weird position where we merged small firms, ended up as a kind of an owner, a little junior owner at the time, and kind of went crazy from there. Had a long winding road of um, ended up being out going out on my own, starting a firm from scratch, purchasing a larger firm, purchasing some smaller firms along the way, and in general, like then learning some hard lessons. So
mm,
yeah, so here we are. And so I would say that some of that is just because I didn't plan, you just end up, taking advantage of things that you didn't necessarily plan for. And you just got to be able to roll with it
hmm.
and make the best of it. So
Awesome.
some of it's luck, a lot of
It,
luck.
it 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 can be an interesting journey, can it?
Yeah. Because I mean,
Oh,
things could have gone terribly wrong, terribly wrong. And I see that every time with our clients. We have a lot of different various clients, and you see some of the worst situations happen, and you're like, well, you can see how they happened, but then you also know at the same time those things could have happened to you as well, and why they didn't. Some of it's luck, some of it's grit. It's a long, winding road. So right now I have a small practice in Charlottesville, Virginia, and it's just myself. I know there's two names on the on the name structure, but there was an original company, Garrison Company, that started out. That guy actually purchased him back in 2014 timeframe, and so when that happened, I just kept the name. It was Garris and Company at the time, and so I had formed a Monfalcone accounting group. Frankly, it was easier to call it MAG because nobody knew how to pronounce my last name. And that's why even now today it's mag-CPAs because it's easier to say and people to find. I don't have to spell it out. Um, so it was just an interesting path and how it's kind of morphed together. But at some point, I think in the future, we will change the name just to make it more clear. And eventually, I won't be here forever. So it would be nice for that to continue, but not necessarily be tied to one person, which is where I think a lot of businesses end up going as they
yeah.
mature, to get away from that one person feel. Because I'm not just me here at the firm. I do. There's no other owners, so unfortunately the buck stops with me. But there are other staff members. So we have team members we deal with payroll, bookkeeping because we're a full service firm. So we're actually still doing audit work. Not sure how long we'll still do audit work, but that's just been kind of the core of our business for a long
Hmm.
time
Hmm.
because we work with a lot of nonprofits. And then we also do consulting,
Hmm.
consulting and planning as well. We don't get into financial planning, although we do talk with our clients a lot about that because I feel like personally that's important to when you do start, then you need to talk about the whole thing, not just
Hmm.
about like the transactions for today, but what is your retirement plan going to look like?
Yeah.
What is the structure going to look like? Because what is it going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, not just tomorrow or today? So those things come up, even though we don't buy and sell trade stocks for them and open retirement plans. We work with a lot of advisors in that regard. So
Mm-hmm.
we do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
those kind of projections and planning for them to see what the right fit is. Um, so I think along the way, I think it's probably morphed a lot more into the consulting and service side of things. And I think
Mm-hmm.
eventually that's where my focus really wants to be versus just doing a 1040 like simplistic tax return.
Mm-hmm.
Although from the economic standpoint, sometimes you make more money on those
Mm-hmm.
simplistic things, especially if you have staff that need, filler time,
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to find enough work for everyone in that one realm of space that they can
Mm-hmm.
realistically serve,
Mm-hmm.
and safely, give advice. So they have to have other things to do, to keep everything churning and still work well. Because without bookkeeping and payroll, it's hard to do consulting because you want those business clients. Because the ideal client, specifically for us right now, is a client that's more of a business oriented client. It doesn't have to be a structured business, but it could be a Schedule C, an LLC that that has probably 250 gross and on up, somewhere in the 250 to $2 million gross range,
Mm-hmm.
because those are the businesses that haven't made enough money to hire someone to help them full time,
Mm-hmm.
but yet need help. And
Mm-hmm.
so we find that that's kind of their market, and those are the people that need more than just a quick tax return. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of that's where we want to be. That's not
Mm-hmm.
where we are, because
Mm-hmm.
again, how you got here like ends up with a lot of stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
you can weed out some stuff, you can make some things happen, but to make that completely from a 180 to like go here to here, that's a step that involves more time than I have on a daily basis. And lots of wishful thinking. So that's the goal. How to get there is a completely different story. I've tried so many things over the past, and some of it is what I can do. Some of it's about what my staff can do,
Mm-hmm.
at their capability levels, or just time wise.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of factors that go into how do you change from XYZ services to a different type and mix of service. So all those things factored in, can be a bit of a challenge. And so there
Uh-huh.
are
Yeah.
it's like and because as a small owner, you don't really have somebody sitting next door that'd be like, "Hey, can you do this for me?
Mm-hmm.
Can you just make this happen? Like I have this vision, and you just do that." Like that doesn't happen that way. Like none of that happens. Like from like point A to point B, like you have to drive that,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to have the right people to drive it. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, staffing, wow, is has been a constant challenge at our level, because I feel like, and I didn't realize it at first, really. I didn't realize like how big of a problem it is. Not necessarily always just to find people, but find the right people, the right attitude. And I get frustrated when I read a lot of, you know, I guess employment articles about hire for, attitude, train for, skills. I'm like, that works in some industries.
Mm-hmm.
It does not work well in ours,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're talking about the technical part of what we do, bookkeeping, tax, consulting.
Mm-hmm.
There is not enough hours or willpower in the day to
Mm-hmm.
train someone to go from I got a sociology degree to now I can help you with your tax returns and people love me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening. It's
Mm-hmm.
not happening. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just so I can get those people for admin and I can train them for some basic task,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't now suddenly in a year or two hope that that person turns into a rock star consultant,
Yeah.
no matter what attitude they have,
Yeah.
no matter how much they like them. It's not going to work. And so I realized, that that's something that's unattainable. And so I do hire for attitude, but it has to be backed a little bit by skill. And there has to be, I'll hire for like a skilled down version. Like if I need like a top tier person, I'm okay with a mid-level to lower person if they do have that right attitude and they already have a good base. They
Mm-hmm.
already have a good track record. They can answer the right questions. Um, but I mean, I did find honestly up front that I hired too optimistically, And I tried to give people too much of a chance and too
Mm-hmm.
much leeway as far as like, oh, they do have this great attitude, or I do like that they did this one thing in this one job. Like they'll be great here. I think I can make it work.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's wrong. That was so
Mm-hmm.
wrong. And so I could write my own book one day about all the crazy HR stories. Just wow. Just
Yeah.
some unbelievably crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like, and you wouldn't think that like a small firm, like we have maybe about 10 people,
Mm-hmm.
like you wouldn't think that. And sometimes we've had more, but like even still those were part-time or whatever, maybe up to 15 at one point with like
Mm-hmm.
mostly part-time and like that, taxes
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And I realized that that was too many. So what I did is I did actually purposely pare down like who I hire, how many hours they have to commit to, because I don't, it's very hard to, it's easy to find part-time people, sometimes easier than full-time, but it's also harder to depend on them. It's harder to base your business on them. And it just, I found that it just wasn't worth it in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
cases. I even found that like interns, not worth it. Like for
Mm-hmm.
our size, it's just, and I've gotten a lot of pressure for that, because we're near UVA, we're
Mm-hmm.
near certain schools, and it's just, for our size level, I've tried it, like it doesn't work. Like it just
Mm-hmm.
had takes so much away, and those people I know aren't looking to come back and work for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like I feel like I'm just wasting my effort. I would rather take one of those low to mid-level people and invest my effort into training them to
Got
the
it.
next level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always looking for the person that does one thing well and possibly does another thing so, but wants to learn that other thing more better or a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to hire that can do more than one thing, either bookkeeping, payroll, bookkeeping, tax, or something more than just one thing. Because
Mm-hmm.
at our level, it's impossible to fill their day with
Uh-huh.
one thing. They need to be flexible. Um, and I always came from like what's funny is I have a degree technically hanging on a wall from UVA, but I didn't go to UVA. I went to their it used to be Clinch Valley. So Clinch Valley College, what, days old was that, but now it's UV at Wise. So my diploma still says UVA. So it's still hanging there. They don't know the difference. So, um, but I got the grit side of the world, not the name side of the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like, they taught you to actually go get a job, do your job, do it well,
Mm-hmm.
not to worry about going to the big four, being CFO, like not that. So I got the grit part of you do what you got to do to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So
Cool.
that's yeah, so that's pretty much like how I survived that going into a bigger firm, we're getting to buy the bigger firm and yeah, that was a crazy I mentioned to you that we did this all on February 1st. And February 1st, obviously, is tax season. That's when everything starts up. And it's going in at that time, it was going in January, but it was before. This was back in 2014. So you were e-filing, but like, IRS opened up sooner. You could still do stuff in January. But yeah, so that was a wild thing. We put that together from December to February 1st, the how things are going to work, organizers, all the
Yeah.
stuff that was going to happen. Uh, moved. I had a really small, I was only a couple employees at the time. I obviously had equipment, had server,
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. Got our computer guys to merge servers over that weekend, moved stuff in, and just started cracking.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I knew I was in trouble. Probably the first week when, somewhere around there, when one of the employees at the time asked me if there was going to be another partner and how I could do that myself. And I was like, oh, you and I aren't going to mesh.
It's a question.
Yeah. I'm like, because you don't usually say that to people you've never met before. So, and that had actually run their own and started their own firm, had been in practice for about a year and a half at that point on their own,
Mm-hmm.
and had a
Mm-hmm.
already had a pretty long track history in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
You usually don't say stuff like that to people. So I'm like, okay, this is a warning sign, but what you do, you just go on. There's a huge amount of challenges that first year, just because it was like an us against them thing. They felt like some of them felt like that. Maybe I should. There was a couple I think that they should have been a partner or they should have been an owner, even though they didn't want to be. There was some of that. They had some resentment from the owner that had sold that thought maybe they'd sold out the firm. It's just that kind of stuff. And they
Hmm.
never tell you
Hmm.
that up front. They told me like, hey, no, nobody wants to be partners, never been discussed and all that. And just that wasn't true. So
Hmm.
there's all that. There's all that kind of. I feel like there's always an underlayer of deception when firms are being sold. Like nobody tells
Hmm.
you the gory stuff or the
Right.
things they suspect but don't know. They don't tell you that stuff. So you got to find that out yourself. And found out all that the hard way for the next year when there was no more of those staff left over the next year. They decided
Ooh.
that
Yeah.
they didn't like the word team. They liked the word, those are my clients.
Uh-huh. Right.
I can't talk to their clients.
Hmm.
I'm like, that's an interesting concept.
Hmm.
Names on the firm. I put in a lot of effort, bought this for, pretty good size amount of money, and you're telling me that it's your clients because
I
you
don't think
work.
so.
I don't think so. And you didn't step up to buy it. So no, you and I are not going to have a good day. I thought it was very nice under the circumstances. They had no idea what to do really though, because who prepares you for that kind of stuff?
Right.
But that was a rough time, like rebuilding. I spent the next 2 years rebuilding to a place where like I hired people that at least knew the message that I wanted to portray. That like this is
Good.
we were working as a team. There's no my stuff, there's our stuff.
Hmm.
There's not even my stuff, like this is our stuff. These are the
Hmm.
firms like clients that we're here for a goal. We're here to help the client to
Hmm.
provide a service that's consistent, that that helps them in a certain way. Like I don't like chaos. I don't like clients that come up front to feel like that we're too busy to help them. I don't like that. I don't like them to see like stuff that looks messy. Like none of that can happen. And so there needs to be a stage set. And so I've tried to hire people that at least understood that message,
Hmm.
that could hear it from me versus their own preconceived notions of, I don't have to bill that client because I don't feel like it kind of mentality, or I don't have to let you talk to them because I'm the only one that knows their stuff. There needs to be more training. Yeah, exactly. There's many eye rolls in a
Hmm.
nice way. I just like so I'm like, but I was not prepared for that level of like I don't even know the word, like resentment, like just frankly sabotage. It felt like
Yeah.
sabotage all the way through. But what do? You just got to truck on. You know what you got to do?
Hmm.
You got to do tax returns. You got to be in a certain way. You got to
Hmm.
organize like the chaos.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that was a tough point. Um, and because sometimes I think I did probably hire a little too quickly, even though I knew I gave them the message, but you always hire too quickly because you need something. So I've had countless ones of those, unfortunately, where I thought I saw something in them that looked good, but can be deceiving sometimes.
Right.
And sometimes it's not even them. It's when they get in with the mix of other people that you have in your firm
Hmm.
that bring stuff out that you didn't know,
Right.
whether it
Yeah.
was them or the other people. I've seen so many weird situations where cliques develop,
Yeah.
where skill sets or just frankly, some people just flatly lied about stuff they could do. Just had that happen on a couple of occasions. And you can usually ferret that out pretty quick. I've
Hmm.
actually fired a few people within a couple of weeks that basically I'm like, there's no way you told me the truth about this.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
just no way, no way on earth. And you start to question like your abilities at this point. You're like, did I just not know how to do this? At that point, it's so obvious. You're like, am I in like the mixed up crazy land world? I don't know. But there are so many times. That's why I think I was looking down my list the other day of like past employees. I'm like, oh man, I could write a chapter on each of these that would
Yeah.
just be wild. I mean, some of them super like outlandish wild. Like
Right.
nobody. There's a couple stories that nobody believes, but there's just so many of those that nobody prepares you for. There's no class in college that says like how to deal with crazy people, unrealistic expectations, like mean people, frankly, mean employees, like that just are rude or just think they owe you something, or victims. Nobody tells you how to deal with all that.
That's another whole group. Yeah.
that's a whole like podcast into
Mm.
itself,
It
victims.
is. Yes.
And and it's hard to, separate yourself from that because it makes you question everything about you.
Hmm.
Um, so just as a side little story, I had a fresh wound from that. I had an employee leave this week, and she gave her 2 week notice a couple weeks ago, which at least is alive and well in the world, which is nice for 2 week notice versus I gotta hit the road. Um, but and this is an employee I didn't really have a lot of interaction with. She was not even a tax person. She was just booking and payroll, and so I let my booking and payroll manager deal with her most of the time, and everything was good with the world, I thought, because she would ask me questions, I would answer her questions. I thought we were civil and everything was good. And because I didn't fire a client that she wanted me to fire, I was just the worst. I suddenly became public enemy number one in her eyes because I didn't listen to her. I didn't take her advice. I didn't do what she wanted me to do. And at one point, she even told me that I should do it myself. I'm like, that should have been her last day.
Yeah, right.
But
That should right then.
it should have been like her last day right then.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here thinking, well, my team members, like I don't want to put them in a bind because I'm hurt. So I didn't. I tried to fix it and do the things you always do, like, okay, try to
Hmm.
give advice about, hey, maybe it's a time management problem with this client. Maybe it's or have you set boundaries? Have you set expectations? Here, can we
Hmm.
talk about this and work this through? Can we have other staff members come in and help to
Hmm.
like maybe do some other things if you don't want to do these things with this client? And what I realized eventually was that there was a victim mentality of, I think she just didn't like that client. And she felt that this person, there was comments about like how much money this person made, and I was like, there's really shouldn't be that kind of attitude toward a client because we want them to make as much money as possible because that's our job. And so but I've heard other practitioners talk about employees as well when they get into that mode of they can't separate themselves and be neutral from the things they see. And I mean that's an area industry is paramount as far as we're safeguarding information, we're gatekeepers, we have ethical responsibilities to nothing goes beyond our doors, and we should be happy for their successes, and we try to help them
Right.
if they're because I've had several clients that were close to closing their doors. And so we help them to kind of overcome some of those things,
Yeah.
to kind of give them some advice along the way, kind of work with them. Um, and they've kind of turned it around. I mean, some don't, but for the most part, they're the ones typically that don't ask for help until it's way too late. And there's nothing you can't work magic. If you, most of it's about over leveraging, to be honest. And so it is, that's I feel like that's our job. Like it shouldn't matter. Like we have clients that make lots of money. We have clients that make hardly any money. It's just that's just the way it works. And whether you see some number on there that has digits, six zeros after the one or seven, shouldn't matter. They should
No.
get treated pretty much the same if they don't want any extra services. They just want you to tax return or they just want a phone call. Like they're not any more special than somebody that makes $50,000. I mean, sometimes, unfortunately, they think, and we've had some in the past that we've had to part ways with because they thought they were.
Yeah. Right. 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 Right.
They were not nice to some of our staff and to myself, and those don't belong in places where the service industry where you have people that
Right.
that help you. This doesn't make everybody happy, and it doesn't make everything work. So, so that is definitely something that we have to prepare our stats for because you never know who's going to be. Because dealing with taxes, dealing with money, people get real sensitive and people get really anxious and upset, especially during this time of year. Because I mean, we do have a candy bowl and that only helps but so far. But we go through a lot of candy during tax season,
Yeah.
and but it's just some people just get so wound up about it because it's a lot of money at times and it's a surprise because they don't plan for it. We do encourage people to come to us with these weird things that they have or potential issues that they're going to have so that they can mitigate that. But like I tell a lot of them, it's not about making these things, making the tax go away because we're not magicians, right? Especially not when it's February or March.
Right.
That ship is sailed. Like
Yeah.
nothing, there's like very minimal things that the tools that we have that we can help with taxes after the fact. And I tell them, I was like, most of it's not about like removing tax. It's about like mitigating like the effects. It's about planning for the effects. So that's what estimates are for. That's what withholding's for. That's what they're just like knowing is for. And so most of it's about that is just making them see that there's a cause and effect to this stuff. It's just a recording at the end of the day. And, all these things set in motion, but here we are, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the plan? And so, unfortunately, I think some people come to us, and frankly, I've taught several clients that have used us over the years that they do their own returns and they think that using an accountant will suddenly make them magically have no tax. And so we used to participate in the Dave Ramsey program, which, good or bad, like, they didn't have a rep in the area. So we're like, hey, and this is when we needed, like, we wanted to get the word out. So we're like, why not? It gives you a lot of exposure. You talk to a lot of different people. And it's actually really interesting and educational because they do a lot of training as well. But it was just educational to hear, like, again, a lot more people's stories and about what they were needing and why they thought they needed it. Because that's half the battle when you're being that salesperson to your prospects is trying to figure out what their motivation is, why they called you, what they need over you versus somebody else. It's all about that. Are you going to say the right thing at the right time, the right price, and all these things have to come together to get this sale. And so it was interesting. We got quite a few good clients out of it, but a lot of them are self repairs. And so I spent a lot of time actually talking them out of wanting to use someone like us and gave them some guidelines of like if your income goes past this and you have these things, this is when you might come back and talk to us. But
Hmm.
otherwise, you're doing fine.
Hmm.
Maybe tweak your withholding a little bit, do some
Hmm.
estimates, do some planning because there's nowhere else for this to go.
Right.
Like there's no magic. There's no magic formula.
Nope.
Uh, it's just and some for some people though, it's just about having that safety net though, just being able to call somebody and ask a question. So we do have that group of clients that they want nothing else from us but have a tax return. They don't have a huge tax return. It's fairly simple, but they want somebody they can call if they have a question in June. Um, and so we do answer a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls. And we work with a lot of different advisors. We're not tied to an advisor like one specific group. I have, to be honest, I have thought about it over the years. I've thought about actually getting like certain designations myself so
Hmm.
that at least if I sent them to one, we could benefit from it. And that's something I might do as I get closer to retirement age because it's kind of like something I enjoy, but it's not something I have time for. And
Hmm.
time is paramount. Um, but we do talk to those people, and they, we answer a lot of questions for those people just
Hmm.
personally, and for the clients that even aren't our clients,
Hmm.
that they ask a lot of generic things. So we try to be a resource for that community as well, as much as time permits, and we
Hmm.
can do that. Um, but there's just so much like within our community that you can provide that service for in so many different avenues. There's so much business are floating around. So like, when people say that because we had a lot of clients call and say that people aren't taking on new clients. There's people retiring that just literally closed up shop in February and said, we're not going to do tax season this year. I know it's like that's not the time to
That's a
do
heck
that.
of a
But
time to decide.
well, there's a couple larger firms in town, and there's one particular one that's fired clients in January and February before, like the last few years. It's like a round of firing. And when your individual tax range is somewhere in the $1,500 to $2,500 range, that's a big price for some of those people to pay. And then to get fired because you can't pay more, seems a little wrong.
Hmm.
So we get a lot of those calls during tax season that, from
Hmm.
the client as well. Um, so, because we try to help those, even if we can't do the return right then, we can do an extension and help them go forward with those things. Just because some of them are just looking for a place to land. because they don't plan. They didn't plan because they didn't
Hmm.
know. Um, so there's a lot of that, and seeing more and more of that happen. I didn't used to see that 10 years ago, but in the last five, we've seen it a lot,
Yeah.
especially in the January, February, and even March timeframe.
Interesting.
And I suspect we'll see it even more as
Yeah.
people retire. I know the place that we're at, I know a lot of practitioners are in, late 60s, 70s.
Hmm.
They're still trekking along. I don't plan to be trekking along that long. Hopefully not. If something would have to go terribly wrong. But yeah, because I think there's other things to do in life um, other than that. But so I think that we're going to see just more and more as people get to that age because there's really not a lot of those small kind of entrepreneurial owners coming up like there was before. You will see some people working at home, kind of on a part-time basis, just because they want, that's a good way to bring in extra money if you've got
Yeah.
that skill. But they're not building a business out of it like some of the other people did like 20, 30 years ago. They're just doing this to get by because they can stay home with their kids, which is totally honorable, but it's not replacing what we were losing. And what we're seeing is a lot of the larger companies, and I get emails on a constant basis from these equity capital people. I was like, they're going to catch me on a good day. but but they get a lot of emails and starting to get phone calls from them. They're entering that space. They're entering even the small space. They're looking for people 500,000, a million in gross revenue. And I mean, and to be frank, I got to question how wise they are. Because at a $500,000 gross or $1 million gross small CPA firm, an equity investor is not going to do it. I've seen a situation here in town, an equity investor somewhere in that it was under the $1 million range that I know of, and they expected this office to run. They weren't even on the ground. They weren't a CPA. They'd never done that work before. They just expect to buy it and make money. And I'm like, that is not, I don't know if you know this. That is not how this world works in our world. You got to have somebody to run the show and herd everything and make it. And because during tax season, especially, it's not about what you knew 2 months ago. It is about what's happened today, how much shows up today. What, are you tracking with what your numbers from last year? How much do you expect to get by Friday? How much will your employees work that week? Every day is different. And every day is different this year. It was different last year and the year before that. So you can never expect the same. I mean, we have gotten to the point, thankfully, that I can track our numbers and they were pretty close as far as things through the door. Now, there are different things through the door than there were last year. I can't guarantee that the same people are here, but the
Mm.
same numbers are here. You have the
Yeah. Right.
same people that like to get their stuff in early and all that. But beyond that, it can change. It changes on when the 1099s show up. It changes whether they moved or not, whether they had a new kid or not. Like every single thing in their life changes everything about our life. And
Yeah.
you can't
Right.
not any of it. Zero. Because I've had clients that had been clients for 20 years because I've been doing this for about 27 years or so. And I've been working at different places, with them who,
Right.
some people when first started, and they will leave you tomorrow if their best friend's kid needs a new client. You know, like, or their brother like died and now they got this weird situation and somebody told them they had to go somewhere else.
It's
I've had
commodity.
investment advisors are out there telling their clients that they have to use their person if they're going to work with them. They don't care about those relationships. But that is a actual common practice. I just lost a client a couple weeks ago because of that very thing. They said they loved working with us. They'd been with us for about 10 years, but they switched investment advisors, and then investment advisor said they had to use their person. No questions asked if they wanted to work with them. So I mean, you got stuff like that going on. So like you've got all these like this churn that constantly churning.
Hmm.
And so when I hear that practitioners are just shutting their doors and not taking on new clients, I gotta wonder, like, did they not have anybody die this year? Did they not have any businesses close, get bought out, move, get married, like just get mad at you? Did you not have any of those things happen? Like, like any of that, because that's going to lose you clients. So if you're not taking on new clients, you're always shrinking, like always shrinking.
Correct. If you're not
And
growing, you're
so
dying.
you are, and especially, and the bigger you get, the bigger that number is.
Yes.
At a certain point, it's just you do have to worry, like you do have to, constantly bring on more and more and more to fill that hole, or you obviously raise prices, you like just, distinguish like, okay, I'm going to take on only certain types of clients, which is kind of where we've gotten the last few years is we've raised our price to like we always have minimum. So we have a screening process and, we don't want every single client that comes to the door.
Hmm.
And we're not going to take every single client just because they call us.
Hmm.
They have to fit certain criteria. They have to obviously be okay with our pricing schedule. And so we're
What are
trying
you
to
looking for? What kind of clients
do,
are you looking for?
yeah. So, we are going to take individuals because again, we lose a lot of individuals all the time. We have a lot of older population, and
Okay.
unfortunately, they pass away, or it's not even passing away that does it. It's their kids are taking over.
Hmm.
So they'll move in next to their kids in a different state, and
Hmm.
that kid has a relationship with somebody, and they're going to take care of the return, or the kid's going to take care of the return because they're doing their own. And so that younger generational thing is also taking some clients. We have people that get married, frankly, later in
Hmm.
life, and then they have to decide which accountant to use, or they're doing it
Hmm.
themselves. So there's all those different little things. But when you're looking at like what the perfect client is that like if I'm looking at like the next 5 years of my time in business,
Hmm.
what I want are those business clients.
Hmm.
Now, they usually come with an individual client. They come with the owner or owners. They come with, it could be a Schedule C, it could be an LLC, it could be a partnership, S Corp. Sometimes they need payroll, bookkeeping assistance. That's the best package that you can get. Is you got all those services together, and it's not even from a fee perspective. It's like it's from consolidation of like effort and energy and like
Hmm.
just knowledge that you
Hmm.
can help that person with, because
Hmm.
it's so much easier to frankly to make yourself more valuable if you can see their books, help them with their quarterly information. Like I had a meeting just yesterday with one prospect that he wants us to meet with him quarterly. We have his QuickBooks. He's probably going to do his own bookkeeping, but we'll just meet with him quarterly, check his work, help him like make sure his estimates are okay. He might not even use us for his tax preparation, but he wants to use us because of the other knowledge we bring to the table. Because his current tax person is okay doing the tax return, but they don't have time to do anything else. So, so we'll see. We maybe end up doing both, but because I think he sees the value in everything together, because I do encourage that. I
The
don't really want,
handoffs are
yeah,
problematic.
it can be awkward, and especially if we don't do the tax return, he has to give us copies.
Yeah, right.
So we explain that all that up front about how, frankly, it probably adds to his cost in the end,
And
just because we have
time.
a little more work to do. It's more time. And so it's not as convenient for him.
Hmm.
And most people, frankly, come around eventually. But if you're looking at like the ideal is you want more contact with the client. That's the
Hmm.
goal. Is the more contact you have, the more kind of temperature checks you have as to are they okay? Are they, you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Is your staff working the way they're supposed to work? Are you actually helping them be more successful and understanding their situation? And sometimes frankly, it's sometimes not about helping them be more successful because we're not in there in the day to day. We're not making the business decisions behind it. It's more about are we helping them understand their situation better?
Hmm. Right.
Sometimes literally just about that. Because we get a lot of people coming from other places that they already have an S corp set up and they don't know what that is. They don't know why they did it. Frankly, half of them shouldn't have done it. And they already had payroll set up. They already had them going on this and they made like $5,000. So, like, yeah, that should have been a definite no, at least for not that year. So, there's a lot of times where people come to me and talk about S corps, and that's one of my favorite things to talk about because it's like, listen, most of the answer is no, this is not a right fit for you. because you want to max out your retirement plan, or you already have a job that you're already over a Social Security limit. Like, no, I know your doctor friend said that was a great thing and you've got to have it, but you already make $300,000 and you're going to make $50,000 on this little side gig. No, you don't need an S corp. So, it's just like, and you have to show them the math on it. But people are just, if other, we've seen a lot of practitioners in our general area, and actually there's a lot of online systems that we've seen that they charge huge amounts for setting up these S corps. They provide no guidance, and of course they'll set up payroll as well. And they'll be somebody will be paying $2,000 to $5,000 for this setup, which frankly like is nothing. An S election and some payroll setup and a couple of
Just a
documents, and we're
little
good to go.
paperwork.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, literally simplistic paperwork. And they'll set that up, charge them a huge amount, and send them on their way. And then other firms, what we're seeing is that they're charging, to set up, and these are not like a few $100s or thousands of dollars. They're setting up payroll, and they're not telling them first why they did the S corporation, what it's for, what they can use it for, what the downsides are. They're not asking them about retirement plans, like how that affects, the potential savings and what you have to run through payroll. They're not looking at like their 2 to 5 year outcome of like what's your projected net income? Like, is this really worth it? Are you going to have other owners, like employees, all those things? And they're not asking those questions up front. They're just seeing a paycheck for that time. And so we get them. And I've never, like, we're extra right now have some S corp revocations that we got to send in for March 15th. I've never actually had so many. And so, because several people are winding down their business to a point where it's not necessary, or they came in, they really shouldn't have ever had one to begin with.
Let's
So we
let's
see quite a
let's
bit of that.
let's let's touch a piece on your business.
Mhm.
Um, what do you see in the future over the next 5 or 10 years? Where do you see the business going?
So if I had my way and I could like snap my fingers tomorrow, I would probably unload a good number of like basic returns, the ones that suck a lot of time out of our day and our energy. It's supposed to be about energy, really. Not necessarily always about time. It's like there are some negative returns that you deal with just
Mm-hmm.
because the people just don't like the outcomes, or
Mm-hmm.
they just don't want to be there. They just don't want to be doing
Mm-hmm.
that anyway. So if I could actually take some of those returns, whether the efficiency is not good, whether the write up, write down is not good, and remove those from the plate and could
Mm-hmm.
replace them, even a
Mm-hmm.
portion of them, with actual these consulting clients or these like kind of bundle clients where you actually
Mm-hmm.
get to use your knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like to do. I used
Cool.
to like to do tax returns like all day
Mm-hmm.
long. I could knock those things out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I did early on, was do lots of tax returns, and I want to do them all. It was like it's an addiction. And so once you get into it, it's hard to get into, hard to get out of. And so when you get past that part, when you realize you can put it all together
Mm-hmm.
and talk about like what you're doing, and then also like how to change it
Mm-hmm.
and how to manipulate those numbers, legally, of course. But you have to ferret out the ones that don't want you to do it legally. That's a whole other
Well, that's a
topic.
different group. Yeah.
Um, yeah, we've had some that tried to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Um, then you have a better product, and you also, frankly, it's an easier recruiting tool,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a hard sale to say, hey, we're going to do tax returns and we're going to work really, really hard during tax season and you're going to love it.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, we are going to have some tax season, hour time, but we get to interact with these advice and like have some successes and see their wins and like feel good about what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing. That's an easier sale than just do some 1040s. And I
In
think
the
for
in,
our size, it's necessary.
in the interest of time, we probably ought to start wrapping up. I think we
Okay.
could chat all day on some of these topics. This is good. So I want to try out a few rapid fire questions for you. Good?
Okay. Hmm.
Let's have some fun. What would you say is a key to success for you?
Um, hmm, Probably just to keep going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
persistence.
You cannot stop. You can't just, I mean, it's super easy to feel sorry for things, or regret things. But you just have to keep going and you just have to figure out a new way. If something happens that's bad, you have to figure out if an employee leaves or a client leave, mostly staff leave or something in the environment, the legislative environment happens. You just have to figure out how can we pivot? Like how can we make this work better? Maybe there's an advantage. Maybe we're gonna take a dip for a while, but we just have to keep going. We just have to keep going.
If you and I were sitting at the coffee shop and somebody walked in and was talking to his friend about the new business he was starting up, what's
Hmm.
one piece of advice you would share with him?
Oh, so totally starting up from scratch. Would probably be to completely think it through from start to finish, even like entry and exit plan before you start.
Oh, yes, there's a good detail right
Before you
there.
start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before things get crazy, do it the way you want to do it and do not compromise.
Yeah.
Because if you just land in the middle,
Yeah.
you're stuck. You can't
Yeah.
get out of it.
Yes.
But if you start it, you can start it the way you want it. You can finish it the way you want
Good. 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 What is one book you're reading now or have read recently that's had impact on how you're running the business?
it. Well, that's a tricky one. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I don't read a
Hmm.
whole lot like actual real books anymore. I want to, but I drive about 30 minutes back and forth every day from home, so I listen to a lot of audios and podcast. One recent I like is oh gosh, what's it called? The Speed of Joy.
Hmm. Okay.
It's a good. Um, it's more church related, but at the same time, it's about just being busy or
Hmm.
shouldn't be busy.
Hmm.
And so I think that's probably a good lesson to learn about as to how to figure out how to not be busy and just but actually get the work done and figure
Be
out the next.
effective.
Yeah. And somehow I got interested in the endurance and Alone on the Ice, like the Shackleford like Arctic adventure thing. So that was kind of crazy. That I listened to both those books, and that was like, wow, that's a different
Mm.
time
That's a different time and a different.
perspective of like not
Hmm.
giving up. Yeah.
Hmm. Good. You've had a great journey.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of things. You've learned a lot of things. You've seen a lot of things.
Yeah.
What would, what in that journey would you say you're most proud of?
Hmm. That's a good one. That is a deep question. Probably them just still here.
That's a good thing to be proud of.
Because
Many
like I
people
said
can't say
earlier,
that.
because honestly, like, yeah, how many businesses do fail? And when I look around town, like I'm looking at um a lot of businesses that did have multiple partners, like two or
Hmm.
three. And when I saw, like when you're looking at 20, 30, 40 years ago, they came together because it was a matter of convenience. Like,
Hmm.
hey, our rent's expensive. Let's share a space. We don't want to be alone. We want to bounce ideas off each other. But they never really combined.
Right.
And then things happened and they split their basic firms apart. They destroyed what they built, what little they
Right.
did build with togetherness. And I just like didn't want to do all that. So I probably have struggled more than I should have or needed to because I didn't want that to happen.
Good.
So I'm like, I fought too hard to have
Yeah.
somebody come in and then not work out and then split up. Like I
Hmm.
just want no part of that.
Yeah.
And part of that's selfish, but part of that's, yeah, I'm still here. And I've not had probably as many problems as I would have had I gone down the easy route
Yeah.
and said, "Hey,
Well,
bring the
yeah.
people in and help me out."
It
Yeah.
seems easy at the beginning.
Oh, it does. It seems like a good answer
Yeah.
until you realize, until you look at really what's happened to other people that've done that.
Yeah.
Unless you find just the right fit, it's very like slim chances of that
Very
happening.
small percentage.
Nobody's like you,
Yeah.
and nobody works the same 2 years into it as you hope they would. And it's just never gonna, I just feel like it doesn't work very
Yeah.
rarely.
Yeah.
And when it does, it, the few times you see it, it's like the people that are so locked in that I don't think they could either get away if they wanted to, or they're just totally fine just working in that situation. And I don't think I'd want to do that.
Just for fun, following up on that, if you had a magic wand, we were in Harry Potter, you had a magic wand and you could fix one thing in your business this afternoon, what would it be?
Oh, yeah, I know that for sure. Would find an office manager that could take a good chunk of the admin load off my shoulders.
Hmm. Okay.
But at our level, I've found it impossible
Okay.
because no office manager at our size, most firms our size don't have office managers.
Hmm.
They have an admin person that answers the phone, or they're small, or they don't have anybody. So we're in a weird spot where we're too big to be small, but we're too small to be big. And you don't find office managers floating around that actually know what an office manager is.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I've struggled with that position, probably the most of any position I have in my firm ever.
Got it.
I
Hmm.
can't find somebody that can actually take on that responsibility and
Hmm.
be good at it and be honest about it.
Hmm. Good.
So maybe one day.
Last
Maybe.
question. Well, not the last question, but most important question. How can people who want to get to know more get in contact with you?
So we have a website, but honestly, we have just an info at mag, so mmag-cpas.com. That comes to me, and I see all that, and I pass it out to whoever screens and contacts people. But that's probably the simplest way, or just to call the office at 434-971-7255. We do answer the phones at least 8:30 to 5:30. So I don't have an AI answering machine or anything like that.
Hmm.
We actually have a real person that does that.
Oh, a human being.
Uh, yeah, as a real person, yes. Sometimes I answer the phone. It just
Hmm.
depends if they're busy. But yeah, that's the easiest way.
Fantastic. Last question. What's most inspiring to you today?
Hmm, that's a good question. Uh, Most inspiring. Um, I think this is probably the people that seem to have figured it out. I hope they really figured it out because you listen to them and it sounds like they figured out like time management or whatever. So I hope they have, and I hope because it sounds like they have. There's a few people out there in the world like
Hmm.
um the
There are.
Tom the TEDx speakers and some of those and
Hmm.
the book that there's a lot of books out there on these kinds of topics. So some
Hmm.
I've read, some want to read. So there's hope.
Hmm. Good. Good. That's fantastic. This has been a good conversation. You've shared a lot of interesting stories that I don't think many business owners like to confess, but all have very much the same issues.
Yeah.
I really liked your stories about team building and some of the issues that go with merging two teams and just building a team in the first place. All of those are true. There's quite a bit to that process that has to be worked through. So those are con, fantastic bits of information. So thank you for sharing that. And for everybody watching, I encourage them to come back and look at it because Christina has really shared some thoughts that we get into team building, we get into market niche, we get into things like where are you a good fit and where are you not a good fit? There was a lot of good information there. So I encourage everybody who's been watching to come back, save the show, come back and watch it again. Christina really did a good job. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications every time we drop a show like this. Thank you to everyone who joined us today, and a special thanks to Christina for being vulnerable, being with us today, and sharing all that she did. So thank you very much, Christina.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. Thanks a lot.